What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today we're going to be doing another figure review, but this time we're going to be talking about this bad boy from Godzilla VS Gigan Rex. That's right guys, in this one we're going to be doing my review for this guy. I guess that was the unboxing right there. In this one we're going to be doing my review for this guy, Gemstone's Godzilla as many of us know it, or if you're familiar enough with the channel you may know him as Snow Godzilla from Shin the movie, although this is a little bit different than Snow Godzilla. Basically the same design, this is just the Gemstone Shorts version of that design. To do a really quick history lesson here, Uenishi Takuya is the director of the short films Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex and Godzilla vs. Megalon. He's also the director of the fan film G vs. G. Now many of us became aware of this Godzilla design through that short fan film G vs. G, which came out in 2019. It's this incredible animation that I believe I've actually shouted out on the channel before because, as many of us understood, it was a fan project. It is a fan film. What many of us did not understand is that it was submitted to Gemstone as part of a competition. I thought Gemstone was just the dude who made it. I thought Gemstone was like the YouTube channel name who made this Godzilla short. Gemstone actually was running a competition with Toho, basically a creative audition. And in that, the G vs. G short wound up winning because it was phenomenally well made. And Toho took that and asked Uenishi to return to direct 2 sequel follow-ups, basically a full version of that short film Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, and then eventually a sequel Godzilla vs. Megalon, and it seems that hopefully they will continue to do those yearly at the Godzilla festivals. They are Godzilla Festival short films that also go online and live forever for all of us fans, and they are incredible. Many people consider them to be the highlight of Godzilla each year, featuring incredible fight scenes, brilliant animation, and a really wonderful use of the characters and IPs. Those short films are beloved amongst the fans, and for good reason. They even play in theaters before some of the Fathom event Godzilla movies because they're that good. And boy are they that good. They really are incredible. Uenishi's Godzilla is like a new version of the Heisei Godzilla, and it's also not the first time he's designed Godzilla, as Uenishi was one of the modelers on Shin Godzilla who helped design the model for Shin Godzilla. He also worked on that Shin on the movie that I mentioned. He's worked on Shin Ultraman, Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, Godzilla vs. Megalon, and also Godzilla -1, as you guessed it, a modeling artist. Now that doesn't mean he designs Godzilla, that just means he helps build the 3D model of the design. I believe in this case this is his design for Godzilla, and the fact that Toho made it into a figure, that's just gotta be like the coolest freaking feeling on the world for that guy. And when I saw this thing at Anime Matsuri 2023, I could not leave without it. That's right, this video is brought to you by Anime Matsuri 2023. It's because I was able to go out to Anime Matsuri 2023 to cover the Godzilla store's return in its triumphant glory that I was able to walk away with this masterpiece of a figure. So big thank you to Anime Matsuri for that. Look forward to Anime Matsuri 2024 where Godzilla should be returning again, and in the meantime, let's check this figure out. When that Gemstone short dropped, that was actually like my favorite Godzilla design I had ever seen. Obviously this is pre -1, which I think has usurped it to become my favorite Godzilla design. And this design has kind of slowly moved back down after the initial excitement of seeing it in the G-G short has faded. But I do think it is a phenomenal design that really builds upon the elements that work in the Heisei design and makes it a little cooler. While I still prefer the traditional Heisei design just because I think it's a little more classic, a little more Godzilla, this is still a wonderful Godzilla design and something that I would love to see in live action someday. If they're gonna do a sequel to the Heisei series, you got no issues with me if they adapt their current sort of pseudo sequels that are the Gemstone shorts. As per usual, it's a Bandai. I'm not taking the tag off just per Bandai culture. This is the Bandai Movie Monster series Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex. There is a Gigan Rex as well, although I didn't see him at Anime Matsuri, so I didn't get him. Starting out, this figure has a phenomenal sculpt, and I have a feeling it's because they've taken the 3D sculpt of the Gemstone model and just adapted it into a Godzilla figure. Now it does highlight some of the weird proportioning, like the legs are a little too skinny down at the bottom. They're a little too skinny and a little too stumpy, especially when you see like the feet. They just don't look big enough to support this body. I know it's a little more realistic actually, 2014 style. It just doesn't look as Godzilla and it doesn't look as cool. But other than that, I mean, that's just part of the design. The figure's actually really well sculpted. The skin texturing is amazing, and that's something Bandai does a really good job with. Bandai's always killed it with the skin texturing, just the way you've got these muscles or whatever those are running down Godzilla's leg. This Godzilla really looks like a mutation, which is what Godzilla should be, and it looks fantastic. I love the chest. I love the way the chest comes up and kind of spreads around the neck. I love the way it builds towards the face. The arms look so muscular. It's almost got a Godzilla Earth-like quality where it seems a little plant-like. Even in the legs, it's almost plant-stocky where it feels like vines, but in this case, it's just Godzilla being like a mutant freak, which I really love. Godzilla's face looks really cool. I love the sculpting on the face. I love the texture and the details in the cheeks. This is the type of depth that I'm asking for from Playmates that Playmates never delivers on. This is the type of depth of sculpt I want. I love the eyes. I love the way that they're built into the face, the way they sink in. The mouth looks great. The teeth are not individually sculpted, but they're well enough painted to where it doesn't matter. It's really hard to see, but they have added texturing on the inside of the mouth as well. And then all the way through Godzilla's body, through the tail, it's all so well designed and well sculpted. I love each individual spine. I really love the underneath tail patterning. It gets a little smoothed out here where they put the freaking logo on there. Ugh, why do they do that? It's always so ugly. Just make it the color of the freaking skin. Like, at least that's the color of the skin. You can still tell it's there, but at least it's the skin color and it's not sticking out so much. Doesn't look like Godzilla's got a tattoo on his butt. But they've done a really great job even adding detailing throughout the spines where the spines have all this texture. It's great. I love the Bandai movie monster sculpts. For the longest time on the channel, I was talking about how I just wasn't always into Bandai. I never really collected Bandai as a kid. I never really got the hype. I certainly didn't like their Shin Godzilla, but after seeing figures like this, I really get it, because sometimes when they hit, they really hit. I don't think all Bandai figures do, but I think this one does. The paint job is a little interesting. It's a little disappointing to me. Now, Godzilla's a pretty good, like, dullish grayish black. He's not quite black, but he's not quite gray, and he does a pretty good job capturing Uenishi's aesthetic for Godzilla. I do, however, wish that they took the colors a little further. Uenishi's Godzilla is a little brighter than this in the gray, and where I really wish they had taken things further was with all of the highlights on the design. Uenishi's Godzilla's toes are not just gray. These are gray toes. He's got gray toes, gray fingernails, gray teeth, yellow eyes, which look great, and then gray spines that go down to the tail, where the top of the tail, this final piece of plastic, which first of all isn't really added on to the tail super well, like very obviously a second piece of plastic. They didn't even paint the spines on the tip of the tail, which I just don't understand why they wouldn't do that. It's very distracting and it looks pretty ugly. I kind of get why they did this. It's sort of kind of a reference to the burning Godzilla-like state that this Godzilla enters, where he blasts the black and white breath, which is so freaking cool. I love the black and white superpower that this Godzilla has, but that's not what they're doing here, because he doesn't have the gray chest, he doesn't have the gray burning flames throughout his body. This is just the Gemstone Godzilla. I wish they had taken it a little further. The actual Godzilla in the G vs. G short has really wonderful sources of red and brown going through his spines. He's not just silver spined. His spines actually go from a black core to this reddish brown exterior that leads into the more gray tips of the spines. It's one of the more unique things about this Godzilla, and they didn't bring it to life with this figure. They just gave him gray spines. And I believe that Bandai has the quality to do that. And then the other thing is, like, with the fingernails and the toenails and even the mouth, he's got a lot more brown, earthy colors mixed in. It's not just gray, it's a little more brown, a little more earthy. The mouth, instead of just being gray, should have been a little more pink, like a very dull pink. That would have looked a little more like the Gemstone Godzilla. With articulation, it's a Bandai figure, so there's not much. He's got kicks in the legs and punches in the arms, and that's that. 4 points of articulation total. That's not really one of Bandai's specialties, but the fact that it's a soft vinyl plastic means you can still bend the arms and do kicks and do big tail strikes, and you're not really gonna hurt the figure, although I wouldn't force it too much, otherwise occasionally you can cause them to crack, which is never the greatest, but there is still flexibility there for kids to play with, which is always nice. To quickly run through some figure comparisons here, I wanted to get out the NECA Heisei Godzilla. This is the Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla design. The reason I got this one out is because the Gemstone shorts are pseudo-sequels to the Heisei era, and this was the design that Baby Godzilla eventually turned into at the end of Godzilla vs. Destroya, so I figured it'd be a fitting one to put side by side here to show the differences that Uenishi took when designing his Godzilla, and how he took the Heisei design and adapted it into something far meaner looking and a little more mutated and unnatural. And while I still prefer the Heisei design, I did want to show where the inspo came from, and I don't have a Heisei Bandai to compare it to. Also, just for fun, I just kind of wanted to compare him to the GMK Bandai Creations Godzilla. He's a little taller than that, which is cool, but I want to compare that just because that's a Bandai Godzilla I have that looks a little more Heisei, so I wanted to get the two out to show them side by side just so you could see those influences. Overall, I feel like generally speaking, I prefer the Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex Godzilla, although this GMK Godzilla is such a freaking classic. It's irreplaceable in my heart. It's a very well done figure. What isn't the most well done figure is another Godzilla that came out in 2019, and that's Bandai's Godzilla 2019. This is their Godzilla King of the Monsters Godzilla. The blue spines look really nice contrasting with the gray gray spines. That's pretty cool. But there's the two of them next to each other. Pretty badass. I just wanted to show off the 2019 boys in action, even though this one's actually based on the 2022 short rather than the 2019 short film. But there's Godzilla 2019 and Godzilla Gigan Rex standing next to each other. Who wins that fight? That's a tough battle right there. Probably Monsterverse, just because he's so overpowered. Probably. And then finally, you know I had to do it. The Bandai Movie Monster Series Godzilla -1. I unfortunately for -1, while he's got the super atomic breath and he's got the regeneration capabilities, I think he would outlast the Uenishi Godzilla, but this one's a way better fighter. There's those badass guys next to each other. Basically, these are two of my favorite Godzilla designs standing off against each other, and they look fantastic together. Both taking inspo from the Heisei era and then running in totally different ways with it. One of them going for a far more mutated vibe, while the other one tries to build upon the classic aesthetic of Godzilla, going semi-Showa and also semi-Heisei to create the perfect Godzilla design. What wonderful figures right next to each other. Yeah, see, this -1 gray is a little bit more like the gray that the Uenishi Godzilla actually is. Nice stuff, man. That's my review for the Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex Godzilla. I think if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think the sculpt is there. It's just the paint job that's holding it back. Even if it's just something like painting the tips of these tail spines gray. I think they could have taken it further, given him the red in the spines, given him the red in the mouth, given him the red features, and maybe brighten up the color a little bit. Or if you're going for that black and white Godzilla from the short, go further with it. Give him those gray highlights and the gray glowing bits in the middle of his core. If you're going to commit to the idea, just commit to it. There's that Godzilla, 8 out of 10. Thank you very much, Anime Matsuri, for the opportunity to grab this guy. Can't wait to see what we get next time. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Do you have this figure? If you've got this figure, please tell me what you think of him down below. I'd love to hear. Is this one that you were able to collect? Is this one that you're still looking for? Or are you just kind of learning about it for the first time? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.